I think we have the greatest economy actually ever in history.
Sometimes political narratives collide with hard data. And the hard data this month involves a disastrous jobs report that has forced Fox News hosts to face some harsh truths.
We're back with a Fox News alert. It's a business one. Moments ago, brand new job numbers revealed. The U.S. economy did not add jobs. They lost 92,000 jobs in February, a steep drop from expectations.
Here we go. So we have a negative number for February non-farm payrolls, a loss of 92,000 jobs. You can see the market reacting. We are also seeing the unemployment rate tick up to 4.4%, a loss of factory jobs of 12,000, government jobs, a loss of 6,000, private sector jobs, a loss of 86,000. Average hourly earnings up 3.8%, which is better than expected. But obviously the headline here is what we're seeing within the report. We also got a negative read on January retail sales, 0.2% to the downside. But I do want to say again, it is the jobs report. We're also seeing here again, the U6, the unemployment rate that came in at 7.9%. Labor force participation, 62%. Again, all of these numbers, to be clear here, are the opposite of the estimates that we got. Let me get into the report to give you exactly where the government says that these massive job losses are actually happening. Sticky report, messy report, and I'm going to be looking for revisions here in a moment. Employment and healthcare decreased, according to the government, reflecting strike activity, which is what Mohammed said to you moments ago, Maria. Employment and information and federal government continue to trend to the downside, according to the federal government. So again, Maria, this report, these numbers are certainly not the expectations whatsoever. A loss of 92,000 jobs. The Street, again, was looking for a gain of 59,000 jobs.
The latest Labor Department report shows that the U.S. economy lost 92,000 jobs, a result that stunned economists who had expected modest job growth instead. But the unemployment rate also rose to 4.4%, and the decline wasn't limited to just one industry. There were job losses across manufacturing, construction, transportation, and even healthcare. Now, to put it into perspective as to what we're looking at here, this was one of the sharpest monthly job declines since the pandemic era. It's not just this month. When you look at past months, they were trimmed down significantly, meaning the labor market has been weaker for longer than previously reported. Economists had expected around 50,000 new jobs to be created.
Start with jobs. Surprise, surprise. In February, 92,000 jobs were taken out of the economy. Not expected. The unemployment rate came in slightly higher, 4.4%. Not expected.
And the broader indicators paint a worrying picture, right? We have unemployment rising, labor force participation slipping, hiring slowing across multiple sectors. Even wages have not kept pace with inflation. And we have rising energy costs triggered in part by the conflict in the Middle East. So in other words, it's terrible news for Trump, right? Because this is something that people are going to feel in their wallet, and he can't spin his way out of it. So rest assured, any plans to de-escalate this illegal war were probably swiftly tossed out the window, as they need an even bigger distraction from both the Epstein files and the economy.
Are there enough asterisks, in Jim's words, to make this number make more sense?
Well, I think, Jim's right that there have been so many strong indicators this month that it's something of a surprise, but there's some weather, there are strikes on the West Coast, and I think that we also have this birth-death model, the change in the procedure at the BLS. And so I think what we need to start doing with these jobs numbers, at least on the payroll side, is take the average over a few months. And if you take the average over a few months, we had a surprisingly positive one last month and a surprisingly negative one this one. But on average, it's about what we expect to be seeing, because immigration has gone down by so much that break-even employment is probably in the sort of 30 or 40,000 jobs a month range. And so, yeah, I think it's consistent with everything else we're seeing, which is that the economy is really strong.
And if you were to flick your coverage over to Fox News, on the one hand, you'd be inundated with toxic levels of copium, as host Maria Bartiromo blamed AI on the job loss.
Here in a very noisy report, Maria.
Yeah, and you know what? Look, we've been talking about AI efficiencies, and that has to be considered here, Gerald Storch, because look, a week ago we heard from Block, right? And they're going to cut 40% of their workforce because they have AI tools that are replacing people. You know, Oracle, the cloud unit says it's putting a pause on hiring. How much of that is a factor here? And Gerald, what are your assessments of these jobs numbers? A negative 92,000 versus an estimate of a growth in jobs of 59.
But on the other, on Fox Business, commentators openly described the report as a, quote, shock jobs miss, highlighting that payrolls unexpectedly fell.
A record number of people tapped into their 401ks early last year. How many did that?
6%, or about 4.5 million people took out hardship withdrawals. The number's concerning, but it is easier to tap your retirement account early because of changes that Congress has made in recent years that allow you to do that.
The midterms are about roughly 9 months away. How soon can we expect the jobs picture to pick up sharply? More jobs coming into the economy. When are we going to see that?
Well, I think we have seen that tick up a little bit. Again, this number in its raw numbers is not something we wanted to see, but overall, we're still better than what we inherited from the Biden administration. So again, in the last 2 months, Stuart, 60,000 jobs have been created. And we need to remind ourselves that I'm working with our community colleges and our tech schools and our private industries so that we recognize what the market demands are and get in that trained workforce as soon as possible.
It becomes harder to argue that the numbers are partisan spin when it's Fox News reporting on it. And with the ever-escalating conflict in Iran capturing all the headlines, it makes it all the more important that things like this are highlighted also, right? Because the reality is this is what the Trump administration want. They want us to stop talking about the Epstein files. They want us to stop talking about the fact that while Americans are struggling at home, they're out here shelling an estimated $1 billion a day on yet another war. That's right, Mike Johnson. A war.
We just had an important series of votes on the House floor. As you know, the War Powers Resolution failed. That is the right result. We are not at war. We have no intention of being at war. The President and the Department of Defense have made this very clear. The Department of War has made it very clear. This is a limited operation. It's an operation that's limited in its scope and duration. It has a very clear mission, and that mission is nearly accomplished by all estimates.
And we may have casualties. That often happens in war.
I don't know if this is technically a war. We didn't start this war, but under President Trump, we are finishing it.
This isn't a war. We haven't declared war.
The Secretary of Defense, who calls himself the Secretary of War, said today this is a war.
We set the terms of this war from start to finish.
Nobody should classify this as war. It is combat operations.
War is hell and always will be.
Strategic strikes are not war.
I guess the Congress people that you saw in that clip are all convinced that it's not a war, because that would mean that they would have had to have done their job beforehand to authorize this. But it does seem like we're in a war.
Much like his approval on immigration, Donald Trump's once strong polling numbers on the economy is cratering. And while his campaigns have consistently centered on false claims of economic strength, no amount of lies can spin what the American people are feeling in their wallet.
What's up, Rick?
Yes. Here we go. This is the big Feb jobs report. Non-farm payrolls minus 92,000, minus 92,000. That is a biggie. Minus 92,000 last month, 130K downgraded to 126,000. Minus 92,000. Well, what would that comp to? Minus 185 in December of 2020. There's where our comp is. Now, that means we have a revision over 2 months now of minus 69,000. We're expecting 62.5. 62.0 would be the weakest, and I have to really go back on this. 62.0 would equal dece of 21 to find a smaller number. You're all the way back to November of 21 when it was 61.9. Finally,
payrolls dropping by the thousands, unemployment ticking upward, inflation outpacing wages, gas prices rising. These are all hard numbers, right? You can't argue with them. And man, do they contradict the claims from the president about a booming economy.
You know, we have a fake news that doesn't get the word out. That's why I love doing an interview. We get the word out. Mm-hmm. But, so you ask a question. In 50 years, a president that's won, even a popular president, somebody that's done well. I'm popular and I've done well. I mean, I think we have the greatest economy actually ever in history. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. That's said by everybody. We have the hottest country in the world. I guess I have to sell that because we should win in a landslide, and we'll do everything we can to do it.
Donald Trump took a beautiful swan and turned it into an ugly duckling as far as the American people are concerned. Because these numbers, as John and I were discussing just before this segment, absolutely crazy in how the American people have totally turned on Donald Trump. Take a look here. Trump's net approval rating on jobs and employment. In January 2025, look at that. Overall, plus 9 points. Hey, that's pretty good. But down he goes, minus 13 points overall. But you think that's nuts. Take a look at the independents. They go from plus 7 way down off the screen to minus 30 points. That's a 37-point drop in the net approval for Donald Trump among independents on the issue of jobs and employment.
Again, with independents just consistently, we're seeing these staggering changes over just a year, a pretty quick period of time.
Just 1 year of time.
All right, this next chart is actually the one that really blew my mind. It's about people's views of the job market in general over a similar period of time.
Yeah, okay, if you think these numbers are crazy, this next one, these are bonkers. Okay, what are we talking about here? Americans rate the job market as bad or good. February 2025, equal share. Say fair or say bad or good. 42. Look at this now. Over just a year's time, now the clear majority, 52%, up like a rocket, rated as bad compared to just 33% down to the basement who rated as good. So what we've seen is Americans rating the job market. It was an even split a year ago, and now the clear majority by a 19-point margin rated as bad rather than good. And that goes a long way to explain why Donald Trump's numbers on jobs and unemployment have fallen to the floor.
Just to be clear.
So, yeah, while this war may dominate the headlines and it's important to cover it, no doubt, there's no getting away from the reality that the American people are bound to grow even more frustrated with the fact that their taxpayer dollars are funding a war that most Americans disapprove of, all while here at home they're struggling to put food on the table.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.